how in the world am I going to make it through Thanksgiving? If you're dealing with an eating disorder or disordered eating, chances are you've asked yourself that question at least once, and don't worry, you're not alone. So have I. And in today's video, we're talking about tips and strategies that you can use to survive Thanksgiving with an eating disorder. Let's get into the video. Hey guys, welcome to Becca Believes. I'm Becca, and on this channel, I want to help you discover your God-given purpose in this me-centric world that just never stops moving. And speaking of a world that's always moving, I can't believe that we are this far into November already. As far as I'm concerned, we're already well into the Christmas season, and I've been playing Christmas music since August. But regardless of your opinion on the timing of Christmas music and decorations, here in America, in 2 weeks, we will be celebrating Thanksgiving. As its name indicates, Thanksgiving is supposed to be a day that is centered and revolves around thanks and gratefulness. But let's be real, it revolves around food, stressful, and family. Even when you love them, stressful! And with the holidays in 2020 looking very different for many people, it's all even more overwhelming. And I'm not alone in my belief that all of these factors create the perfect storm for the most difficult and triggering holiday to get through when you have an eating disorder or are in recovery. It also doesn't help that when you have an eating disorder, there's another voice sitting with you at the table, and that voice is only capable of telling lies because that voice is your eating disorder. And when you actively fight back against that voice, those lies are going to get louder. So what can we do to try to quiet that voice down, or at least push through the noise and survive Thanksgiving? Let's talk about some of my favorite tips and strategies that I've found helpful over the past 17 years. Number 1, ask for help from your support system and have one go-to support person that you can check in with throughout the day. As difficult as it can be to talk about this kind of stuff, reach out to your support person before Thanksgiving Day so you can make a plan together on how to navigate any difficult issue that may arise. Whoever your support person is, they can help you just take breaks throughout the day. They can help you recalibrate when needed, when you're just overwhelmed. They can redirect conversations at the dinner table when it inevitably at some point will turn to diet talk. And they can just be there to assure you that you're on the right path and to encourage you that you're making the best choices that you can make. And if you're working with a therapist or a mentor or anyone in that type of capacity, but maybe they're not going to be with you on the day, it doesn't hurt to ask them if they would be okay with you sending them a text at one point during the day just to kind of check in and say, hey, can you give me some of this encouragement because I'm really struggling here and I could really use some help. And in today's world where there are entire therapy programs based on text messages, it makes that possibility even more of a reality. All right, next up, keep with a routine. You do not have to completely change your schedule just because it's Thanksgiving Day. Now, Thanksgiving Day will objectively look different than other days, and being out of a routine creates so much chaos for individuals dealing with eating disorders and disordered eating, which thrive on rules and rigidity. So something important to remember is do not preemptively restrict or engage in any eating disorder behaviors to try to compensate for your Thanksgiving meal, whether it's before or after. And regardless of how much you may love your family, it is best to have an escape plan when the lack of routine or the busyness of Thanksgiving just gets too overwhelming for you to handle. This can be something as simple as driving your own car to Thanksgiving dinner so you can go sit out in your car for a few minutes and play your music to kind of recalibrate and decompress and get your mind back in gear. When you're taking your little break, you can do deep breathing exercises, you can practice mindfulness, you can start going over the things that you are thankful for and try to shift your focus that way. And having an escape plan gives you an opportunity to kind of check in with your feelings, to do some journaling if you need to do some grounding techniques before you go back and try to tackle the rest of Thanksgiving Day. Question of the day for you. What is your favorite escape in times where you just need to get away and decompress? And follow up, what are you most thankful for this year in 2020? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, on to the next tip. Start a gratitude journal and log your wins. Now, gratitude journals have become fairly commonplace in today's world, but if you have not started one, I urge you to take time and maybe just start with 3 or 4 things on your list and say, okay, here's what I'm thankful for today. And if you can't think of them, ask someone to help you think of things, because when you're in the middle of your eating disorder, it can be hard to get out and see the bigger picture when everything else feels so overwhelming. But by taking time to think through things that you're grateful for and specifically writing them down by hand, which we've talked about before, writing things down really helps your mind remember it better. I think you'll be amazed at the effect that that simple action can have on your psyche. And alongside that list of gratitude, I want you to write down every single win that you have on Thanksgiving, no matter how small or how big. Did you get up out of bed? That's a win. Write it down. Did you laugh during Thanksgiving with your family? That's a win. Write it down. Did you talk to your support person and make a plan ahead of time? That's a win. Write it down. When we take time to acknowledge our wins, no matter how big or small they are, it has such a transformative effect on our mind, and it changes us from a mindset of, I can never do this, I'm only failing, I've only got problems too. Oh, hey, look, I did this and this and this and this, and that may seem small to someone else, but it may be a very big deal to you, and that is worth celebrating every time. Next item on the list, follow your plan. This obviously applies to a meal plan, but it also applies to a plan for the day in general overall, which is why we talked about addressing things ahead of time with your support person so you can have this plan in place. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a dietitian or medical professional, so I cannot give you specifics on what your meal plan should be or offer advice on what your meal plan is right now. However, I can tell you that on Thanksgiving, it is not an excuse to ignore your meal plan. Here are some things that can make your plan easier. If you're overwhelmed with the amount of options at Thanksgiving dinner and you just know that it is too much to handle at this point in time, it's okay to bring your own food. Now, some people say, oh, that's indulging your eating disorder, or, oh, people will be staring at you. But here's the thing. It is so much better to enjoy that meal and sit around the Thanksgiving dinner table with your family than it is to not do either of those things. And if that means you have to bring your own food that maybe you're a little more comfortable with, but you can make sure you still get in your meal plan exchanges, go for it. And speaking of, your meal plan is a great guide, but remember on Thanksgiving, it's okay to be flexible. Now, that doesn't mean to deny your body what your meal plan says it needs because the professionals know best. Like I said, I'm not a professional. And this includes not skipping breakfast or lunch, even if you're going to be having Thanksgiving dinner later that day. However, you have permission to take a safer route. And in saying that, I'm not at all saying indulge your eating disorder, obey your eating disorder, and restrict or engage in other eating disorder behaviors. That's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that for a lot of people, Thanksgiving may not be the single best day to start trying your fear foods for the first time. Now, if you've been in recovery for a while, or if you just are up for the challenge, it can be a great place to do that if you're surrounded by supportive friends and family. So I'm not telling you to not give it a shot if that's something you want to try to do, but I am letting you know that you don't have to use Thanksgiving to try to conquer those fears because you are already going to be so overwhelmed, or you wouldn't be watching this video. And it's especially okay to take the safer route if you're pretty confident that pushing yourself a little too hard would result in some majorly triggering thoughts and behaviors. And let me remind you, when it comes to your meal plan, all foods are okay and all foods can fit. All right, next, this one is extremely important, and this is give yourself permission to enjoy the day, but not pressure to make it perfect. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Finding ways to enjoy Thanksgiving is awesome. However, if you're struggling with an eating disorder, like we talked about earlier, this day can be the single hardest day of the year to get through. So if you find yourself struggling with thoughts or behaviors or anything disordered whatsoever, give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up over it. But instead of giving in to those thoughts and urges, take the next right step forward. And an important thing to remember is that even if you do engage in any behaviors or act on those urges one time, it does not mean that you have to do it the rest of the day. Take the next right step. And the philosophy that I love to use with this is be optimistic, but be realistic, which does not mean pessimistic. It just means optimistic. You are planning for the best. But being realistic, you're preparing for all of the things that could potentially go wrong so you can attack them on that day, and then you can get on with the rest of the day and continue surviving Thanksgiving. And one very simple thing you can do is keep a list of positive affirmations with you, whether you have it written down or typed into your phone, so you can read through them either during the meal or at any point during the day that you just need that extra boost of encouragement and reassurance. Okay, this next one is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and it works on Thanksgiving, but it also works on any other holiday or really any day. Create a recovery playlist full of songs that uplift you, encourage you, and motivate you to keep on going. One rule for this is to not put any triggering songs on the list. Another rule for this is to not put any sad songs on the list. While sad music can help us process some more difficult emotions, we're trying to eliminate that on this day, if at all possible. And by following those two rules, avoiding triggering songs, avoiding sad songs, and when you stick with songs that motivate and empower and uplift, it helps you channel all the good feelings. And if you're anything like me, you can't not sing along. There's that double negative for you. I have to sing along to anything that I'm playing. So if you know the song, sing along. And if you're able to safely dance, meaning you don't have exercise restrictions, I urge you to dance out all those negative emotions because my goodness, the power of music is healing. But it's important to remember that you only engage in the dancing if you're able to do it without thinking about, oh, this is burning calories. No, that's not the goal. The goal is to dance and get out those negative emotions. Now, I listen to a really wide variety of genres of music, but on these playlists, you'll most often find some pump it up worship music, some hip hop that just gets me motivated, punk pop tracks, 90s boy band tracks, and maybe some show tunes in there too. Whatever works for you, put it on a playlist and have that playlist ready to go whenever you just need that boost of motivation. Before we get to the last suggestion, if you're getting value out of this video today, go ahead, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another upload. And let me know in the comments down below, what music have you found to be most encouraging on your journey? And the last tip that we're going to talk about today is to plan something to do with family or friends after Thanksgiving dinner. Whether you make plans to go to a movie, which may or may not be practical given the state of things in the world right now, or whether you play board games, whether you have a Zoom call with friends or family, or maybe even play some of those virtual games on Zoom, or whether you're planning out your Black Friday shopping in person or online, because let's be honest, who doesn't do that in today's world? Staying distracted and staying busy after something as stressful as Thanksgiving dinner can be a game changer because it will help you fight back against all of those really loud lies that your eating disorder is trying to convince you are true. They're not. And ultimately, remember, as stressful as Thanksgiving is, it is just one day. And if you're watching this video, I want to remind you of a quote that has been attributed to many people over the years. On particularly rough days, I like to remind myself that my track record for getting through bad days so far is 100%, and that's pretty good. If you find it hard to remind yourself of this truth, let me remind you by repeating. Your track record for getting through bad days so far is 100%, and yeah, that's pretty daggone good. And while simply knowing that truth doesn't necessarily make the day itself any easier to get through, being able to zoom out and kind of see that bigger picture perspective, even if it's just during Thanksgiving dinner, can help alleviate some of that stress in the moment. As for me, I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for your desire to make Thanksgiving as manageable and, dare I say, enjoyable as it possibly can be. And as with everything else in recovery and in life in general, we have to take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and sometimes it's okay if it's even one bite at a time. Thanks again for taking time to watch, guys. Happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you in the next video.